So Quantic's, no CRS credit is a 10 rating. CRS credit for Quantic is a 7. So instead of paying 1,000, because we're giving you so many credits, you're paying 700. So the town, if they can get so many houses lifted, they get more credits. So the village area, which I was arguing with, they reverse the houses. If you go over 50%, you have to lift your house. And it's the structure only. If you look at the flood zones, Colleen and I have researched this, if you look at the flood zones on the other streets, there's much more value on the house and very little on the land. In the village, it's reversed. So, you know, if you go over 50%, Bob Grant will make you lift your house if you put in permits.
They can mandatory based on the 50%
Over 50%
Of the assessed value.
Of the tax assessed rest of just the house,
building.
just the structure.
Explain what that is to everybody.
Okay, so I'm gonna pick on my house because I always do. I got the smallest house in the village. I like it. You
That's
know,
all that matters.
I'm there.
That's all that matters.
My land was at 220,000 or something like that.
Tax assessments.
Tax assessments. My house was at 75. Then they'll depreciate my house on top of that. So, at the 75% rate, half of 75 is 3750. 37,500. So if I go above that and I put in permits to Bob Grant, he would tell me to lift my house. But they also depreciate another like 3% off of that. So I had to make sure that my paperwork didn't go over 33,000 or I'd have to lift my house.
In terms of claim.
Does everybody understand what she's saying?
Yes.
The money that she collected on her flood insurance.
Okay, but you don't use actually the money. It's what it is to repair.
It's a repair. So
But
it didn't
Bob-
include your depreciation, is that what you're saying?
Well, what I'm saying is Bob Grant, like say I had solid wood doors,
Okay,
all right? So I get paid more money on that because it's solid wood doors.
correct.
So now I'm putting in hollow doors.
Right.
They're cheaper. So when I put in my permit, I put in the hollow doors
Right.
versus the solid wood. So it shouldn't be what I got paid. It should be what I'm using to reconstruct.
Right, good construct.
The problem with Bob Grant is he asked people to give him what they got paid from FEMA. They handed it in to him and he's like, you're over 50%, lift your house. The town originally said if you had under 4 feet of water, don't worry about it, just start rebuilding. It wasn't until I had walls up that they came after me to say, you need to lift your house. I'm like, no. You know, I put in new paperwork. I'm like, no, my husband stayed home, he did the work himself. So, cause it's not.
You revised it.
Oh, yeah.
And
I
you
know
could do
several
that.
people.
Hell
I
yeah.
didn't know that.
I know several.
Oh, yeah, no, I'll argue with
Based on that.
anybody.
Good,
Yeah,
good, good.
yeah.
Yes,
Who pays to lift the house?
you do.
Well, 30,000?
30,000 is considered ICC money. You get that with private flood and you also get that with FEMA. If you go and you put in for ICC money, you have I can't remember if it's 5 years or 3 years, to lift your house, move your house, or demolish your house. Those are the three options. Once you get put in, and the only person who puts you in is not FEMA. It's the building permits department. So it's Bob Grant, and they do not check each other. So FEMA doesn't say, okay, your tax thing is 75,000, we paid you 50, you need to lift your house. It's the permit guy that puts you in, and once you get put in, nobody can take you out as far as I know, unless you hire a really good attorney or
And
something.
the ICC money is only good for the person who went through
The
the
flood,
flood.
yeah, it
Does not
doesn't,
survive a new ownership.
yeah,
Not real,
it's not
cannot apply
transferable.
for it, right?
That's important to know.
Yeah, that's
And
They're going all through this down the shore now, I mean,
Yeah.
they've been
Well,
going through it
and
the last 2 years,
the
but.
problem with the shore properties is a lot of the properties are seasonal homes.
Yeah.
So they're not primary residents, so they fall under Brigate Waters, so if they
They're
don't
still
live-
giving them the 30 to lift though.
Yes.
Yep.
But if they don't lift the house, you know, 'cause when they lift the house, they get out of the flood zone, but you actually are in the flood zone. So you still have to get flood insurance, but you get preferred rates.
Preferred
So
rates.
you're basically like at $500. But you're in a flood zone, so the mortgage company will require you to have it.
I just
Yes.
texted my person with the questions on the flood.
No,
no
You
problem.
said 2 within 3 years,
Mhm.
okay, there's now, it's July, it's August 2014.
Yeah, but you're in a flood zone, you gotta go 10 years without, to get out, you need
Now, I don't wanna get out.
No, to get out of the flood zone, I mean repetitive loss,
Repetitive loss.
sorry. To get out of repetitive loss, FEMA requires that you go 10 years without a claim. So if your last claim was 2011,
I did 2.
you gotta go to
21.
yeah,
And that's that.
that's
And
it,
they
there is
did
no
do this
exception.
too.
Well, it's been 2 years since we flooded, so we need another 8. It's really,
Yeah.
it's been 2.
Right.
So
It's a
you need-
clean.
you need
I
that.
just wanted
And
to
that,
say-
if you look at history, that's happened before.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yes.
you know.
But I'm selling it now.
I'm going back.
It's not good for the
But
buyer's
they're
market.
losing
I
out
tell you, I keep claim.
Now flooding.
You can have a whole
already
new
owned it.
career, that's right.
Yeah,
With
repetitive-
commercial, with secondary
They
home,
can
with
take
Yeah,
over
everything.
the other
exactly.
policy, the only thing that's gonna be different is you're gonna have to look at the rating on the policy, because it says like 1.32 per thousand, it'll have rating on it.
Now, I know.
If the old person only had $100,000 mortgage and they only have $100,000 structure, then the new person has to go to whatever the, yeah,
Oh,
they
yeah.
have to go to whatever it is for the mortgage company or replacement costs. So if they have to go to 250,000 or 200,000 or whatever it is, it's gonna be higher than what the person is paying, but it's gonna be the old rate of what that person is
In
paying.
this case, it's gonna be less of a mortgage.
Well, that's where the adjusters.
Okay, then they
Okay.
they can lower it.
Some of them don't work.
So, I'll bring it.
Okay.
Let's go back to the elevation, just because, and Renee knows all about my situations with my sellers in the village, because I go to her first. We had meetings, and we've actually sat before the flood committee, talked to Dave Holbert, extensive with Bob Grant personally, face-to-face,
We've had meetings here
online
in the
meetings,
office.
yeah.
Yeah.
Bob Grant's really gonna stay firm to his elevation stuff, he can,
That's a
based on
FEMA rule.
FEMA's rules. I
But that
thought
FEMA
maybe
rule
they were
was
gonna
in-
lift it, we thought maybe he would lift it because, things are changing and other towns are not mandating. He's still mandating, it's really
He made everybody
the
else.
village area only. He did say to me, Winding Way and Greendale, they may have to elevate because their basement levels, that's below the elevation of that. So, but those houses never got water on the first floor. Once those first floors get it, God forbid, then he said, that's where he's
Deny
looking
it, deny
at,
it.
down the road. But he's really a stickler.
Claims, that's right.
Yeah, and then, also back to the land and the structure value, we did, south end of town, Paquonic, and Renee reported to them. When they did the townwide reassessment, they flipped our land and our structure, we know, years ago. They did it again right after the flood. And that's where they took it, from the village area and specifically targeted the village.
Oh, yeah.
They did, we found that out, we brought it to them. South end of town, Garrow, everything, Greenwood,
Paquonic
Jefferson,
Ave.
Paquonic Ave. Their values, their land value is less, their buildings were worth more. Made no sense to us, it's all because they want the village area elevated. So they target it, and they can, and they will
Yeah.
not
And
change
I've tried
it.
hiring an
I was
attorney.
gonna say,
will
can't
not
get an attorney
change
to
it.
help
Oh, I
you switch
hired-
it back?
I had hired an attorney, I tried AJAC's office, and they told me there was nothing that
Nothing
they
they
could
could
do.
do, yeah.
You can't fight them, you
Nope.
can't,
But
you know,
it's-
he's following the rules.
Yeah, but no, but it's
No, I
assessment
put
is
in
wrong.
new paperwork, I
The
told them,
assessment
because I
is wrong.
originally had the contractor put in the paperwork,
Oh.
and then I said, no, my husband did the work himself, here you go.
Oh, and they just.
Well, they
You're
wanted
better-
mine
You're better off
from
knowing the rules of the game
That's
and
it.
and play the rules,
I
and play
Yeah.
the rules to your
If-
advantage.
The problem
Yeah.
is.
No, that's why we
really
did,
like
no,
we did,
yeah.
we did meetings, and we did meetings around there, because you have a limited time for ICC money, you can't tell them 5 years later, I want the ICC money because I'm over.
It's done, right?
It's done.
all finished,
It's
yeah,
finished.
you can't apply
You get-
for it.
In the case of that reversed value, is that something you can challenge on a tax appeal?
I tried it, I lost.
Yeah,
I tried doing
but I
it
think
online.
because it was hard, honestly.
Move the houses to me that you're getting rid of anybody that's young and wants to have kids, because I personally, if I was having children, I don't want them tripping down
No,
14.
anybody young.
And anybody old, I don't want, and I'm not that old, but I don't wanna walk up with my groceries 13 steps, no. But, yeah, if you have questions on anything, I'll be more than happy to answer them. I did have a question before from somebody, if it says that it's in a 100-year floodplain, that just means you're in a flood zone. If you're in a 500-year floodplain,
100 years.
it does, well, I get people all the time, they call me up on the phone and like, prospective insurance. They're like, oh, I'm in a 100-year floodplain, they said I need flood insurance. I'm like, well, you're in a flood zone. Well, no, that doesn't mean I flood once every 100, I'm like, no.
It's just 100.
That's
No,
what
it
I
means
thought
you
about
have
first.
So did I.
I thought that's what it meant.